In the heart of the city, the gleaming lights of luxury flooded the high-end restaurant known as the Velvet Rook. With its rich mahogany furnishings and elaborate chandeliers, it was a sanctuary for the elite, a realm where power mingled with sophistication. Amidst the clinking of glasses and hushed conversations, Mia maneuvered expertly between tables, her uniform crisp and her demeanor unfaltering. She was used to the weight of scrutiny in a place like this, a black waitress in a predominantly white establishment, yet she carried herself with an air of quiet defiance. Mia's day had started like any other, waking up early to the sound of her alarm blaring, brewing a strong cup of coffee that would fuel her through the long hours ahead. She meticulously tied her hair back, ensuring every strand was in place, a small rebellion against the chaos of her life. With each step toward the restaurant, she steeled herself against the whispers and judgments that accompanied her. She had learned to navigate the world with caution, unyielding in her independence, yet she felt a flicker of vulnerability lurking beneath her confident exterior. As she approached a table near the window, the atmosphere shifted. The air thickened with a sense of anticipation, and she instinctively knew something significant was about to transpire. At the center of it all sat Victor, a man whose presence commanded attention without a word. He was strikingly handsome, with dark hair slicked back and piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold the weight of untold secrets. Dressed in a tailored suit that hugged his broad shoulders, he exuded power, dominance radiating from him like a magnet. But it was the intensity of his gaze, sharp and calculating, that sent a shiver down her spine. Mia had encountered many patrons in her years at the Velvet Rook, but this man was different. The moment their eyes locked, she felt an undeniable tension, a connection that defied the usual dynamic between waitress and customer. It was as if the air crackled with energy, setting her heart racing, a feeling she had learned to suppress over time. She forced herself to break away from his gaze, focusing on her tasks, but the allure of his presence lingered. "Can I take your order?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. It was a routine question, one she had asked countless times, yet it felt charged with something more significant in his presence. Victor leaned back in his chair, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Yes, I'll have the steak, medium rare," he replied, the deep timbre of his voice resonating in the space between them. The confidence he exuded was magnetic, but she was not a woman easily swayed by charm alone. As she scribbled down his order, she overheard snippets of conversation from other patrons around the room. Whispers of power and influence floated through the air, drawing her attention. It was then that she realized the connections this man had, the power he wielded beyond the walls of the restaurant. He was not just another wealthy customer. He was someone whose name carried weight, whose presence could shift the tides of fate for many. "Your drink?" she prompted, her pen poised, ready to jot down his choice, though she couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to this man than met the eye. "Scotch. Neat," he replied, his eyes holding hers, as if daring her to delve deeper into the mystery that surrounded him. Her instincts kicked in, a protective wall rising within her. She sensed the danger lurking beneath the surface of his charm, a tempest barely contained. "I'll have that right out," she said, forcing herself to retreat from the magnetic pull he exerted. As she walked away, her heart raced, and she could feel his gaze lingering on her back. Mia had always trusted her gut, a survival instinct honed through years of experience. She could see beyond the facade of wealth, sensing the potential threat that lay hidden beneath Victor's poised exterior. A man with such allure couldn't be merely a businessman. He was a predator in a world where she often felt like prey. Moments later, as she poured a glass of scotch at the bar, she stole a glance back at Victor. He was now engaged in conversation with another man, his laughter rich and deep, but Mia could see the subtle tension tightening his jaw, the flicker of impatience in his eyes. She felt an involuntary pull to him, a curiosity that gnawed her resolve. "Who is he?" she whispered to the bartender, who raised an eyebrow but didn't respond. The weight of his silence spoke volumes, and in that moment, Mia felt a rush of excitement and fear collide within her. It was a dangerous game they were playing, the allure of the unknown drawing her in like a moth to a flame. Returning to Victor's table, she could feel the pulse of her heartbeat in her ears. "Your drink," she said, placing the glass before him, trying to suppress the flutter of anticipation. "Thank you, Mia," he offered, his voice low and smooth, as if the mere sound of her name was a treasure to savor. "You have a way about you, one that intrigues me." Unprepared for the impact of his words, her thoughts raced. "I'm just doing my job," she replied, determined to maintain her professional distance. "Every job has its challenges," he countered, leaning closer, the weight of his gaze resting heavily on her. Mia swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the precarious balance they were treading. In this world of high stakes and hidden dangers, she would be wise to tread carefully. Victor was a mystery she felt compelled to unravel, yet she couldn't ignore the warning bells ringing in her mind. "Enjoy your meal," she said, turning to walk away, but not before catching the briefest flicker of surprise on his face. It was a moment that ignited something deep within her, a twist of fate that she would later wish she had ignored. As the night unfolded, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that her mundane routine had slipped through her fingers, replaced by a sense of anticipation she didn't understand. She was deeply intrigued by this man who seemed to embody both danger and charm, a puzzle wrapped in layers of complexity. Little did she know this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself and the world around her. As the night unfolded, Mia continued her shift at the Velvet Rook, the rhythmic clinking of silverware and low hum of conversation blending into a familiar backdrop. Yet the memory of Victor's penetrating gaze lingered in her mind, casting a shadow over her usual routine. As she weaved through the dining area, her heart still raced from the brief encounter, a mixture of dread and intrigue stirring within her. She had always prided herself on her independence, but there was something about him that tugged at the edges of her resolve. After the night's chaos subsided and the last patrons trickled out, Mia found herself in the quiet kitchen, her thoughts a whirlpool of emotions. The head chef, Marco, was washing dishes, his back turned to her. He had always been a father figure, offering advice and encouragement through her struggles. "You look lost in thought, Mia," he commented, glancing over his shoulder. "Another long day?" "Just trying to figure things out," she replied, her voice quieter than usual. "It's just been a lot lately." Marco nodded, understanding etched on his features. "Life has a way of throwing challenges at us. You've been working hard, and I see the dedication in you. Don't lose sight of your dreams." His words resonated deeply, reminding her of her aspirations beyond waiting tables. With a sigh, Mia recalled her family's financial struggles. Growing up in a modest neighborhood, her parents had worked tirelessly to provide for her and her younger brother. They had sacrificed their dreams for stability, a reality Mia had always vowed to change for herself. She wanted to break the mold, to rise above the limitations placed on her by circumstance. Yet, the weight of her responsibilities often felt suffocating. The restaurant job was a stepping stone, but it also felt like a cage. As she finished her shift and stepped out into the night, the cool air hit her like a splash of reality. The city lights sparkled above, and for a moment she allowed herself to dream. What if she pursued something more, something that could connect her to the world Victor inhabited? The thought was thrilling yet terrifying. Mia walked the familiar streets toward her small apartment, replaying the encounter with Victor in her mind. Each detail was etched vividly, the way he held himself, the confidence in his voice, and the underlying danger that seemed to pulse beneath his charm. She shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts that threatened to consume her. She couldn't afford to get tangled in a web of intrigue and power. She needed to focus on her future. But the more she tried to push him away, the more she felt drawn to him. A part of her was curious about the life he led, the secrets he harbored. The allure of the unknown was tempting, like a forbidden fruit she couldn't resist. What did he do outside of this polished facade? Who was he when the lights dimmed and the laughter faded? In her heart, she knew she was teetering on the edge of a decision. She could continue her life as it was, safe and predictable, or she could take a risk and seek out a connection with Victor. The thought sent shivers down her spine. The next evening, Mia's resolve strengthened as she entered the Velvet Rook once again. She was determined to remain professional, to keep her emotions in check, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into a storm. The restaurant buzzed with energy, patrons mingling and laughing, but her focus was singular. She wanted to see Victor again, to understand the magnetic pull that had left her unsettled. When she spotted him at his usual table, the world around her faded. He was engaged in conversation with a group of men, their laughter loud and boisterous, but there was an intensity in his demeanor. She felt a jolt of electricity course through her, and for a brief moment she hesitated. Could she really approach him? Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself and walked over, forcing her heart to steady. "Good evening, sir. May I take your order?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. Victor turned his gaze to her, and a slow smile spread across his lips. "Ah, Mia, I was hoping to see you again," he said, his voice smooth like silk, the way he enunciated her name sending warmth through her. The other men at the table paused, curiosity piquing as they observed the interaction. "I'll have the same as last time," he continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "And perhaps you'll join me for a drink afterward." Mia's heart raced at the unexpected invitation. "I don't think that's appropriate," she replied swiftly, her instincts kicking in. This was a boundary she wasn't ready to cross. "Why not? You're here, and it seems we have something to discuss," he challenged, his tone teasing yet serious. She could feel the eyes of the other men on her, and the weight of their scrutiny was palpable. "Your drink will be ready shortly," she replied, backing away before her thoughts could betray her. As she moved back to the bar, her mind swirled with confusion and excitement. She resisted the urge to look back, feeling the weight of his gaze as she walked away. In that moment, Mia knew she couldn't ignore the pull any longer. The curiosity was growing into a fire within her, a desire to know more about Victor and the world he belonged to. What if there was a way to connect her aspirations with the life he led? As she prepared his drink, she made a decision. Maybe it was time to take a leap of faith and embrace the unknown. After all, every great story began with a risk, and perhaps this was hers. With her heart pounding, she steeled herself for what was to come, ready to step into a world that could change her life forever. As the evening settled into an electric tension, Mia found herself serving tables with a heightened awareness, her senses sharper than ever. The Velvet Rook, adorned with its opulent decor, felt alive around her. Yet all her focus was on the shadows cast by the dim lights, where Victor's imposing figure lingered. He was a constant presence in her mind, a riddle she was desperate to decipher. When a group of well-dressed men entered the restaurant, Mia's heart sank as she recognized Victor seated at his usual table. It was an odd mix of anticipation and apprehension that coursed through her veins. Tonight, he appeared even more magnetic, engaged in a serious conversation, his brow furrowing with intensity. The dynamics at his table shifted as one of the men leaned in closer, speaking in hushed tones. Mia tried to maintain her composure. As she approached with a fresh bottle of wine, she caught snippets of their exchange, words that sent a chill through her. "The shipment is late. We can't afford any mistakes this time," one of the men said, his voice low but urgent. Mia's hands trembled as she poured the wine, heart racing. She couldn't ignore the implications of what she was hearing. Victor was involved in something far deeper than she had initially understood. "Everything is in place," Victor replied, his tone cool and unwavering. "But if they don't deliver, we will have to take matters into our own hands." The weight of his words settled heavily in the air, a dark cloud hovering over their conversation. Mia's instincts screamed at her to retreat, but a deeper curiosity rooted her in place. Before she could gather her thoughts, Victor's gaze locked onto hers, piercing through the noise of the restaurant. "Ah, Mia," he said, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. "Always at the right place at the right time." There was a playful edge to his tone, yet the shadows behind it held an unspoken threat. She straightened, forcing herself to maintain professional composure. "Is everything all right, sir?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Just business, sweetheart," he replied, his smirk lingering. It felt like an invitation wrapped in danger, a reminder that she was only scratching the surface of his world. The other men at the table leaned back, their attention shifting as they relaxed slightly, sensing the tension easing. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this was a dangerous game they were all playing. As she retreated to the kitchen, her mind raced with the implications of what she had overheard. Marco noticed her distracted demeanor and raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay, Mia?" he asked, concern etched on his face. She forced a smile, nodding quickly, but her thoughts were far from the comforting familiarity of the kitchen. With each passing moment, the weight of her newfound knowledge pressed down upon her. Victor was involved in something that could bring ruin, not just to himself, but possibly to anyone caught in his orbit, including her. Yet the pull was undeniable. The more she learned about his world, the more she felt an inexplicable connection. Determined to confront her curiosity, she decided to approach Victor again, but this time she wanted answers. She waited until the restaurant quieted down, the last patrons leaving, but the tension still palpable. Her heart raced as she made her way back to his table, where he now sat alone, his expression contemplative. "Victor," she began, her voice firm yet laced with uncertainty, "I overheard some of your conversation earlier." His gaze met hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "What are you involved in? This shipment you mentioned?" He leaned back in his chair, an amused smile playing at his lips. "You're curious," he noted, his voice smooth. "That's good. Curiosity can lead to knowledge." Mia held her breath, waiting for him to elaborate, but he merely regarded her with a mixture of admiration and caution. "What you heard is part of my life, Mia. A life you are not prepared for," he continued, his tone shifting slightly, revealing a hint of his protective nature. "It's dangerous." "Dangerous? You think I can't handle it?" she challenged, fueled by a mix of defiance and the need to prove herself. "I'm tired of being boxed in by my circumstances. I want to know more." He observed her for a moment, the silence thick with tension. "You think you want this life, but you don't. It's not just about glamour and power. There are risks, and people who won't hesitate to hurt you." Mia felt a rush of adrenaline. "I'm not afraid of risks, Victor. I've dealt with enough in my life." His expression changed, perhaps seeing a flicker of resilience in her eyes that he hadn't noticed before. "Then you should understand," he said slowly, "that the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to return. Are you willing to lose everything for a taste of this world?" His question hung in the air, and for a moment Mia stood at the precipice of a decision. She could feel the walls of her reality closing in, yet the allure of the unknown was intoxicating. "I'm willing to risk it if you'll let me in," she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. Victor studied her, the weight of the moment heavy on both of them. "Very well, but know this. Once you step into my world, there's no turning back." The air crackled with unspoken promises and dangers as Mia realized that she was no longer just a spectator in Victor's life. She was about to become an integral part of it. The stakes had risen, and as she stood before him, she felt the faint echo of a new path unfolding, one that could either shatter her or set her free. The air in the Velvet Rook thickened with an unspoken tension as Mia stood before Victor, the weight of her discovery pressing against her chest like a heavy stone. She had confronted him, and now she felt the pulse of uncertainty in the air, a reverberation of both danger and connection. His expression shifted as he regarded her, the amusement in his eyes fading, replaced by something deeper, more profound. "Curiosity can lead to knowledge," he repeated, leaning forward slightly, his fingers steepled in front of him. "But knowledge can also be burdensome." The words rolled off his tongue like silk, drawing her in, yet a warning echoed within her mind. Mia felt the flicker of fear beneath her curiosity. What had she stumbled into? "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "What are you really involved in, Victor? What shipment?" Victor hesitated, the weight of her question hanging in the air. There was a flicker in his eyes, a moment of vulnerability that felt rare and precious. "It's complicated, Mia. The world I inhabit is not one you can simply walk into without consequences." Mia felt a knot tighten in her stomach, but she refused to back down. "I've already seen glimpses of it," she urged, emboldened by her own resolve. "I need to understand." He studied her for a moment, and she could sense the internal battle within him. Finally, he sighed, the sound heavy with resignation. "Fine, but you must promise to tread carefully. There are forces at play that you cannot comprehend." Mia leaned in, her heart racing. "I can handle it." Victor's gaze darkened, and for a moment she thought he might dismiss her. Instead, he took a deep breath, his posture relaxing ever so slightly. "Very well. My world is governed by debts and alliances. The shipment you overheard is part of a larger deal, one that involves power, loyalty, and occasionally—" He paused, the shadows in his eyes deepening. "I lead a faction that operates on the fringes of this city's law, and while I am respected, it does not come without a price." The gravity of his words struck Mia. This was no ordinary business negotiation. It was a dance of shadows, with lives hanging in the balance. "What do you mean by betrayal?" she asked, her voice scarcely above a whisper. Victor's gaze turned distant, as if he were peering into a past that haunted him. "When I was younger, I trusted someone with everything. They used that trust against me, leading to a loss that shaped who I am today." His voice lowered, tinged with vulnerability. "It taught me that loyalty is a rare commodity, and to survive, I must remain vigilant." Mia felt a surge of empathy for the man before her. Beneath the icy exterior lay a soul marked by pain. "I can't imagine what that must have been like," she said softly, her heart aching for him. "But you're not alone now. You don't have to keep everything to yourself. His expression shifted, a flicker of something resembling hope crossing his features. You think you can understand? This life isn't just filled with riches and power, it's riddled with danger. People will exploit your weaknesses. Mia squared her shoulders, determination etched into her features. I may not know everything, but I want to try. I want to help. Victor's laughter was soft but devoid of humor. Help? This isn't a charity, Mia. It's a war zone. Then let me be part of it, she insisted, her voice gaining strength. I refuse to be a bystander in my own life, especially now that I've seen what's at stake. For a moment, silence enveloped them, tension crackling like electricity. Victor studied her, the amusement fading from his eyes, replaced by a calculating gaze, as if he were weighing her worth. Finally, he nodded slowly. Very well, but understand this. Once you step into my world, there's no turning back. You'll see things that will test your morality, your beliefs. Mia met his gaze, unflinching. I'm willing to face whatever comes next. His lips curled into a faint smile, and she felt a surge of warmth between them, something that had been missing moments before. But just as quickly, the moment was interrupted by a commotion from the entrance of the restaurant. A group of men, faces familiar yet menacing, strode in, their laughter echoing ominously. Mia's heart sank as she recognized them, Victor's enemies. Speak of the devil, Victor muttered, his demeanor shifting instantly, the protective wall he often wore sliding back into place. Mia turned to look, fear prickling at her skin. This was not just a casual encounter, it was a threat looming over them. The atmosphere grew heavy, the tension palpable as Victor's focus sharpened. Stay close to me, he commanded, his voice low and firm. As the men approached, one of them, a tall figure with a smirk that dripped with malice, locked eyes with Victor. Heard you've been stirring up trouble, Victor. You're playing a dangerous game. Mia felt the tension rise, thick and suffocating. She had no idea how this would unfold, but the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. Victor's posture was rigid, and she could sense the simmering anger beneath his calm facade. Mind your own business, Dmitri, Victor replied coolly, his voice betraying none of the fury that coursed through him. You have no place here. Dmitri laughed, a sound cruel and taunting. Oh, but I believe I do. You're in over your head, and I'm here to remind you of that. Mia's heart raced as she looked between the two men, the tension thickening like a storm about to break. She had stepped into a world where loyalties were fleeting and danger was a constant companion. And in that moment, she realized just how deeply intertwined her fate with Victor's. As Dmitri continued to taunt, Mia felt a swell of determination within her. She wouldn't let fear dictate her actions. Victor, she said, her voice cutting through the tension, we can handle this together. Victor's gaze flicked to hers, surprise mingled with admiration. You need to stay back. No, she insisted, stepping closer. We're in this together, remember? For the first time, a flicker of something softer crossed Victor's expression, a hint of appreciation mixed with disbelief. The world around them faded momentarily as they locked eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. Fine, he said finally, his voice low but firm, but be ready for whatever comes next. As the confrontation escalated, Mia sensed the shadows of Victor's past looming larger than ever, intertwining with her present. She was no longer just a waitress. She was embroiled in a narrative of power, betrayal, and a bond that defied the very nature of danger. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. She would face it alongside Victor, come what may. and in that moment, the threats surrounding them only served to strengthen the connection they shared, a bond forged in the fires of uncertainty. The atmosphere in the Velvet Rook crackled with unspoken tension, a simmering storm brewing beneath the surface. Mia's heart raced as she processed Victor's words. The revelation of his life, a world dominated by debts and alliances, hung heavily in the air, intertwining her fate with his in ways she dared not yet comprehend. She had stepped into a realm where shadows danced with danger, her resolve igniting a spark of defiance within her. But just as she was beginning to grasp the weight of her choice, a sudden shift in the room's mood jolted her. The door swung open with a force that reverberated through the restaurant. A group of men entered, their presence instantly commanding attention. Mia's instincts flared, recognizing the hostility radiating from them. She caught sight of Victor's body language shifting, a tension coiling tighter around him as his gaze fixed on the newcomers. "Stay close," Victor commanded, his voice low but urgent. There was an intensity in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. She nodded, a silent agreement to follow his lead, the reality of her situation settling in her bones. The men approached Victor's table with an air of arrogance, dressed in tailored suits that hinted at their wealth but failed to mask the menace woven into their demeanor. The leader, a tall man with a slicked-back hairstyle and a smug smile, leaned over Victor with an intimidating confidence. "You've been causing quite a stir, Victor. It seems your little operation is attracting unwanted attention." Mia's heart pounded in her chest. The implications of their words were clear. Victor's world was not only dangerous, but also fiercely contested. She glanced at Victor, whose expression was unreadable, a mask of control covering the simmering turmoil beneath. "Perhaps you should be more concerned about your own operations, Marco," Victor replied evenly, his voice steady as he maintained eye contact. "I'm not the one who should fear exposure." Marco's smile twisted, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Funny you should say that. We both know how fragile alliances can be, especially when one party forgets their place." He gestured dismissively, and the men behind him moved closer, their intentions palpable. Mia felt a wave of adrenaline surge through her. She could sense the danger escalating, and instinctively, she moved a step closer to Victor. He cast a sideways glance at her, an acknowledgement of her presence, but his focus remained on Marco. "You don't want this to escalate," Victor warned, his voice low, each word laced with the authority of a man who had faced down threats before. But Marco shrugged, unconcerned. "What do you propose we do then? Sit around and pretend everything is fine while you make deals behind our backs?" The accusation sank into the air, heavy and laden with challenge. In that moment, Mia realized that Victor was not just a boss, he was a leader, navigating a treacherous landscape of loyalty and betrayal. She had seen glimpses of this world before, but now it was unfolding in front of her, raw and unfiltered. She felt an overwhelming urge to take control of her circumstances. "Enough," she interjected, surprising even herself. The tension in the room shifted as all eyes turned to her, disbelief written across their faces. Victor's brows furrowed slightly, a mix of surprise and pride flaring in his gaze. "This isn't just about you or your deals, Victor," she continued, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "It's about the lives affected by your choices. You can't allow threats like this to determine your fate or mine." The men laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the restaurant, but Mia stood firm, her determination radiating. She could see Victor re-evaluating her in that moment. The power dynamic had shifted, if only slightly. "You're playing a dangerous game, little waitress," Marco sneered, but Mia refused to back down. "Maybe," she shot back, meeting his gaze with unyielding resolve, but I'd rather take a risk than live in fear." Victor's eyes darkened, impressed by her audacity, but aware of the stakes. "Mia, this isn't just about us," he cautioned, his voice low, almost pleading. "There are real consequences to defiance in this world." "I understand that," she replied, her heart racing with conviction. "But standing by and letting them dictate our lives isn't an option. If you want to protect what's yours, you need to fight back." In that moment, Victor's demeanor shifted. The flicker of vulnerability she had seen before transformed into something fierce and protective. "You really are something else," he murmured, a hint of admiration in his voice. As the tension escalated, Marco's group seemed less amused by Mia's boldness. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," Marco said, "but guts won't save you from what's coming." Before Mia could respond, Victor straightened, his presence commanding. "You'll regret underestimating her," he warned, his voice like ice. "Now leave before you make a mistake you can't undo." The room held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. Marco's expression darkened, the bravado faltering slightly under Victor's unwavering gaze. But that didn't deter him. "This isn't over," he spat, before motioning for his men to follow him out of the restaurant. As they departed, the weight of their threat lingered. Mia turned to Victor, searching his face for answers. "What happens now?" she asked, her heart still racing from the encounter. Victor's gaze met hers, a storm of emotions swirling in his eyes. "Now we prepare," he said, his voice steady but edged with urgency. "They'll come for us again, and next time they won't be so easy to dismiss." Mia felt a surge of adrenaline paired with an unmistakable connection. She had stepped into Victor's world willingly, and now the stakes were higher than ever. The danger that loomed ahead was undeniable, but so was the bond forming between them. A bond forged in fire, chaos, and an undeniable spark of something deeper. As Victor leaned closer, their proximity igniting the tension between them, Mia realized that her heart was no longer just a passive observer. She was in this fight, ready to face whatever came next, together. Mia's heart thundered in her chest, a steady drumbeat of defiance echoing through her. She had stepped onto a precarious tightrope, balancing the weight of her convictions against the reality of Victor's world, and the stakes had never felt higher. Marco's mocking laughter faded into the background as she focused on the challenge ahead. This wasn't merely a confrontation, it was an opportunity to redefine her narrative, to assert herself against a backdrop of danger that had threatened to engulf her. "Maybe," she continued, her voice unwavering, "but this isn't just a game for you, is it? It's people's lives, Victor. I refuse to be a pawn in a chess match I didn't choose to play." Her words hung in the air, charged with an intensity that made the surrounding silence deafening. Victor's expression shifted, a flicker of admiration crossing his features, but it quickly masked itself with an unreadable calm. The tension in the air thickened further as Marco leaned back, crossing his arms, an amused smirk playing on his lips. "Look at the little waitress, trying to save the day. How quaint." His derision was palpable, and the men behind him shifted, their eyes glinting with mockery. But Mia remained resolute, her stance firm as she locked eyes with Victor, searching for any hint of solidarity. Victor's shoulders squared, and he met her gaze with fierce determination. "You don't understand the depths of this world," he said, his voice low yet filled with a protective intensity. "Every decision I make is a matter of survival, not just for me, but for everyone beneath my wing. This isn't just about me, it's about loyalty, respect, and the lives that depend on my choices. You have to trust that." "Trust?" Mia scoffed, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "How can I trust you when you're tangled in a web of deceit? when your power means risking the lives of those you care about? The raw emotion in her voice echoed through the restaurant, drawing the attention of nearby diners, their whispers rising in a crescendo of intrigue. Marco's smile faded, replaced by a hardened glare. "Careful, little waitress. You're treading on dangerous ground. You have no idea who you're dealing with." His voice dripped with malice, a threat veiled in sarcasm. The tension snapped like a taut wire, and Victor's presence shifted, a silent promise of protection radiating from him that sent a jolt of electricity through the air. "Enough!" Victor's voice boomed, silencing the room. The authority behind his command was undeniable, and for a moment even Marco faltered. "I will not let you intimidate her, not here, not now." His gaze turned back to Mia, softer yet unwavering. "You deserve the truth, Mia. I can't shield you from the chaos in my life, but I can show you why I fight." Mia felt the ground shift beneath her as Victor's words settled in. This was her moment, a chance to reclaim her voice amid the storm. "Then show me," she demanded, her heart pounding with anticipation. "Show me who you really are and what this life means to you." The tension around them was electric, a palpable force as Victor considered her request. The shifting dynamics of power had created a chasm between them, but she sensed the yearning within him to bridge that divide. "Meet me tonight at the rooftop," he finally stated, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'll reveal everything, but you must come prepared to hear the truth, no matter how dark it may be." Mia swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing against her. "I'm ready," she affirmed, feeling the resolve solidify within her. "I'll be there." Their exchange sparked something new, a thread of connection woven through their shared vulnerabilities. The atmosphere shifted once more as Marco stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. "You think you can just walk into his world and come out unscathed? You have no idea the dangers that lie ahead." He leaned in, invading her space, his breath cold against her skin. "Remember this, Mia. Once you enter, there's no turning back." Victor's body tensed beside her, a protective presence that solidified her determination. "She's not afraid of you, Marco," he stated, his voice firm, holding an unwavering resolve. "And neither am I." The finality in his tone underscored a promise, a commitment to shield her from the impending storm. With that, Marco stepped back, a look of disdain etched on his face. "Very well, but don't say I didn't warn you." He signaled to his men, who followed suit, retreating with an air of reluctant submission, leaving Mia and Victor alone amidst the swirling tension. As the door closed behind them, Mia felt a weight lift slightly, but the uncertainty of what lay ahead remained. "Thank you," she murmured, turning to Victor, who still radiated power and danger. The vulnerability she sensed beneath his tough exterior was undeniable, drawing them closer even as the world pushed them apart. "It's my responsibility to protect you," he replied, the softness in his voice surprising her. "But you must understand, this world is ruthless. It will test us in ways we can't even imagine." His gaze held hers, and for a moment they were suspended in time, the chaos of the restaurant fading away. "I'm willing to take that risk," Mia said, her voice steady, "but only if you're willing to fight alongside me." The challenge lingered in the air, a promise of shared battles to come. "You don't know what you're asking for," he warned, yet there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "But if you're ready to face the truth, then so be it." The night ahead promised revelations, a confrontation with shadows that would forever alter the course of their lives. As they stepped out of the velvet rook into the cool night, Mia felt a surge of anticipation. The rooftop awaited, a place where secrets would unfurl and the true essence of their relationship would be laid bare. The stakes had never been higher, and with each passing moment, the pull between them intensified, a magnetic force that neither could ignore. Tonight, they would confront not just their fears, but the undeniable chemistry that had blossomed despite the chaos surrounding them. The choices they made would echo through the corridors of their intertwined fates, and as they walked toward an uncertain future, Mia felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Together, they would face the darkness, and perhaps, just perhaps, find a way to carve out their own destiny amidst the shadows. Mia stood at the precipice of uncertainty, the weight of Victor's promise pressing heavily on her shoulders. The rooftop was a stark contrast to the chaos below, the city lights twinkling like stars scattered across a velvet sky. She could feel the cool breeze against her skin, a reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the edges of this moment. This was where their worlds collided, a place where the ordinary met the extraordinary, and Mia was determined to navigate the complexities of both. As she stepped onto the rooftop, she spotted Victor leaning against the railing, his silhouette framed by the cityscape. He seemed lost in thought, the tension in his posture a testament to the burden he carried. For a moment, she hesitated, recalling the intensity of their previous encounters, the way he had captivated her with both his strength and vulnerability. But she pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. "I'm here," she announced, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Victor turned, his expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming." There was a sincerity in his tone, a hint of relief that softened the edges of his usually stoic demeanor. "I know this isn't easy for you." "Neither is it for you," she replied, stepping closer. "But I need to understand what this life means to you. If we're going to do this, I can't be left in the dark." He nodded slowly, unfolding his arms as if to invite her into his world. "It's complicated," he began, his voice low, almost hesitant. "This life, it's not just about power or money. It's about loyalty, about protecting those who can't protect themselves. I've made choices that haunt me, decisions that put everyone I care about at risk. And I can't let you become another casualty of my past." Mia felt a pang of empathy, recognizing the weight of his words. "You think you're protecting me by pushing me away? By keeping secrets?" She stepped closer, her eyes searching his for truth. "You're not giving me a choice. I want to be part of this with you, but you have to let me in." Victor's gaze softened, a flicker of something deep and raw crossing his features. "You don't know the dangers that come with this life, Mia. The enemies I've made, the debts I owe. They don't just disappear because I want them to. I can't drag you into that." "Maybe I'm already in it," she countered, her voice rising with conviction. "You brought me here, Victor. You chose to involve me when you stepped into that restaurant. I may not have your experience, but I have my own strengths. I've fought my way through life too. I deserve to know what I'm facing." Her words seemed to resonate with him, the tension between them shifting into something more profound. He took a step closer, the air thickening with unspoken understanding. "I've never met anyone like you, Mia," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "You challenge me in ways I didn't think were possible, but this is dangerous territory." "Then let's navigate it together," she urged, her heart racing. "Let's figure out how to balance both our worlds. I'm not asking you to change who you are, but I need to know the truth. I need to see the man behind the mask." Victor's expression shifted, the walls he had built around himself beginning to crack. "It won't be easy," he warned, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his tone. "There are people who want to see me fail, to see you fail. My life is a constant battle, and I can't guarantee your safety." "I'm not afraid," she declared, her resolve unwavering. "I've faced my own battles. I've stood up to people who thought they could walk all over me. If you're willing to open up, to let me in, I promise I won't back down." A moment of silence enveloped them, the city humming beneath their feet. Victor studied her, his gaze intense and searching. "You're stronger than you realize," he finally said, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. "But this isn't just about strength, it's about trust." "Then let's build that trust," she replied, her voice steady. "Together." As the words hung in the air, Victor stepped closer, the distance between them narrowing. "Okay," he said, his voice low and firm. "But know this, I won't let anyone hurt you. I will protect you with everything I have. You're not just a part of my life, you're a part of my fight." Mia felt a rush of emotion at his declaration, a warmth spreading through her chest. This was more than just a partnership, it was a connection forged in the fires of adversity. "I won't let you down," she promised, her heart swelling with hope. "Then let's start planning," he said, a hint of a smile breaking through his usual stoicism. "We'll find a way to navigate these challenges, to keep you safe while I deal with my enemies. But we must be smart about it." Mia nodded, determination surging within her. "I'm ready," she affirmed, feeling the electric charge of their bond strengthen. "Whatever it takes, I'll stand by your side." As they began to strategize, the rooftop transformed into a sanctuary of possibilities. The city sprawled beneath them, a living tapestry of challenges and dreams. In that moment, they weren't just a mafia boss and a waitress, they were a team, united against the odds. Hours passed as they mapped out their plans, their voices mingling with the sounds of the city. With each shared idea, the barriers between their lives began to dissolve, replaced by a shared vision of hope and resilience. They spoke of the future, of building a life that combined both their worlds, a partnership forged in trust and understanding. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the city, Mia felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had faced the darkness together, and now they were ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The road wouldn't be easy, but with Victor by her side, she knew they could conquer anything. "Together," she whispered, sealing their newfound alliance with a promise that echoed through the dawn. They were ready to face their future, hand in hand, prepared to navigate the complexities of love and danger, united in their shared fight against the shadows that threatened to engulf them.